Hello everyone and welcome to the RaceRoom test race. It's been a short winter here. Sector 3 Studios released a massive update in December for RaceRoom racing experience, and of course we are going to use the winter break to have a little test race to see if everything still works, to slow down penalties, like the old GT3 cars that we're racing here today, WTCR, which got a small update as well, and of course test all the new stuff, suspension damage, new Porsches on the road. We've got, of course, the ranked multiplayer servers, which is a brand new feature that a few of you have already seen, and yeah, just overall want to give the drivers a little chance to race in the winter. What we've got coming up today is one race with the GT3 class here at the Red Bull Ring, already in the qualifying session right now. And then afterwards, a short race at Ningbo, a new circuit for the WTCR cars. So that will be really exciting. 45 minutes of racing action coming up here. We're already in qualifying session. I think you can already see on the stream Andrés Santos currently leading in the practice session in the brand new Porsche. Let's maybe take a closer look at his car. There he is. Finished second last year in the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship. And of course the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship is coming back this year. Even bigger, even more live events, more prize money, more cars as well, like this one here, brand new Porsche. And of course Andrés Santos using this race as a preparation, and he was really fast. The cars overall a little bit slower than in the past. Physics update by Alex Hodgkinson and Thomas Janssen has made them quite a bit more realistic. Now you can actually use the traction control, for example, in most of the cars, and we can see lap times mostly in the 29s, but I think Andrés Santos will be able to go into the 28s here in the Porsche. Across the line, first car to set a lap time. Andrés Santos 29.046 it says at the bottom. It is not counting his time. So maybe there was a track limit infringement for Andrés Santos. In fact, Julian Kunze, his teammate at Euronics Gaming, fastest at the moment, 28.9. Just taking a little look through the field here. So we've got Kunze currently in the first position, in the Porsche of course. People were expecting the Porsche to be one of the fastest cars around the circuit, and we actually put a little penalty weight on the car already. Porsche on 10 kilos of extra weight. Second place at the moment, Sultan Suti, the winner at the Esports WTCR race at Macau. In the Mercedes, and that car's running on 5 kilos. All the other cars on 0 kilo. Suti in second place, followed by Gemeinhardt, then Benedek in another Mercedes, Ericsson in the Porsche, and Garibaldi in the fastest of the Corvettes. 29.8 at the moment. It's the same livery that he used in the GT Masters Esports Championship in last spring, the winner of the online season of Esports WTCR, also using this event to get some more track time in the new GT3s. And then we've got the first BMW, a car that got slightly more competitive with the update, still fast in the fast corners and not so fast in the slow ones. But we've got Gianclaudio Croce here, the Italian from the Absolute Motorsport Racing team, currently sitting in 8th position. As Philip Matzik, fastest of the Audis, in the T3 Motorsport livery, up to P6. This livery here, you've maybe seen it on the servers already. It's not available in the store because it's exclusive for the drivers of the T3 Motorsport Sim Racing team. So it's both a real racing team and a sim racing team at the same time. His teammate Johannes Weiss not using this Audi here. Audi quite hard to control after the physics update in a Corvette in P4, but the fastest Audi actually, Moritz Löhner, in second. Just taking a look at the much more exotic cars on the field here. Arkadiusz Ciborski, first time on the live stream. P18 at the moment in the Ford GT. Maybe some of you will remember the times when this car was actually completely overpowered. It's a long time ago now. Struggling here a little bit. And we've also got Benny Payne in the Nissan. Benny Payne racing from Australia. Very international field as well. Heath Cockram also from Australia on the grid, and also Emmanuel Lopez from Argentina. You can see it here, the ping is quite high at the moment, so this car is moving around a little bit more than it should. He was also part of the Esports WTCR final in Malaysia. If you haven't watched that, make sure to go over to the YouTube channel of the FIA WTCR to watch it back. Was quite a spectacular event, actually. Front of the field, still Julian Kunze, and what happened to Andre Santos? Still hasn't set a lap time yet. Going for another attempt now, but yeah, he's stuck in traffic. That's either Johannes Weiss or Attila Dina. I think it's Johannes Weiss, so a pretty fast driver ahead of him. Still not the best position to start a lap time. It's very wide over the curb. It was in qualifying sessions. It's still the same. If you run over the too much over the curb, then your lap time will be invalidated. In general, the rule is more or less 2 wheels on the track, and the curb counts as track. So that's why you see the drivers sometimes go a little bit wider than you might expect them to. Like Stoffmehl, winner of the special event at Suzuka, back then in the Mustang, now on the Callaway Corvette, up to P3. Julian Kunze still at the front of the field, but I think Andre Santos, he's actually on purple sectors. Let's go on board with him. First sector, purple second sector as well. Kunze Suti so far. The 28th Löhner actually as well. This could go quite a bit faster for Andre Santos here. For the green car ahead, but Andre Santos will determine to finish his lap and crosses the line, goes provisional pole position 28.707. Very nice time for the German from Euronics Gaming. Here one of the more exotic cars on the grid, George Davada, EC Sim Racing NL. In the BMW Z4, the old BMW, not quite as quick anymore after the update. Still doing a good job here, ahead of one of the Mercedeses and Porsche and the Audi as well. Nice performance from George. Yeah, sometimes you might see some little lag, some cars jumping around a little bit. So, yeah, of course this is still a test race here. Just trying to get back into the rhythm, that's why we're not on the official channel. You know, just something in the winter to keep everyone warm and also to determine which are the potential issues that could occur when we run another championship, a full season. Because as I mentioned, GT Masters definitely coming back, much bigger championship than before. WTCR looking quite good as well. It's many here, Ben Spunky just up to second position. He knows the WTCR cars better than most other drivers. He won the championship last year. This season actually went to Kuba Brzezinski in the end. Ben Spunky. I think we'll see a good performance from him here in the GT3s, but an even better one probably in the WTCR race afterwards at Ningbo. You can see Karel Vega, and I think we just received a request to put the manufacturers into the tower. Of course, it should be possible to do that. So here you can see a full manufacturer overview. Porsche at the moment on pole, Mercedes, Porsche, Mercedes. Two cars that already have the ballast weight. And the fastest Audi, another Porsche, that's Jesper Eriksson. Pretty good performance by him. Currently in the pit lane in this Scottish looking Porsche. Followed by the fastest Corvettes, Stoffmehl and Johannes Weiss. And Gergo Baldi only sitting in P15. That's a bit of a surprise. Are the old cars as fast as the new ones? Probably not. At the moment, I would say the cars that are also running in the GT Masters, they are a bit faster than the other cars. Occasionally, some of them can keep up, but I would say there's a small advantage, or maybe a bit more than a small advantage, for the newer generation cars at the moment. But it's also confirmed already that the testers are working on that. They will try to bring it a little bit more into balance. Of course, you know, a new car, in some cases, it is faster than an old car. You gotta stay realistic here as well. But certainly here at the Red Bull Ring, the Porsche is looking very good. The Mercedes is as well, and the word on the street was that the Audis are actually pretty competitive as well, but they're just so hard to keep on the road. Slöner, fastest Audi at the moment. Got changing daytimes as well, but it's just set to the normal time acceleration, so won't see it too drastically here in effect. But what we do have is suspension damage now. That could be quite interesting. When they go too hard over the curves, it can occur, and also by car contact or when they hit the wall, and then the race is not immediately over, but certainly a noticeable difference. His steering might be a little bit off the center, and yeah, definitely slows you down, and it prevents a little bit. Some drivers take too aggressive lines. I think at the race at Ningbo we will see it even more. There we might also see the flat spots on the tires. GT3s of course use ABS, so quite unlikely to get a flat spot, as Moritz Löhner goes up to second position here. Very nice time and very strong in the final sector as well in the Audi. Yeah, probably no flat spots here in this race, but most likely we will see them in the WTCR, and especially when you race some classic cars, you will have noticed them already. Yeah, Baldi up to P7 now. Fighting for Mira Esports, that's also a team with a Real Motorsports connection. Crosses the line but stays in P7 at the moment. What do we have coming up next? It's a 45-minute race with the mandatory pit stop. Mandatory pit stop on RaceRoom means you have to change either 2 or 4 tires. You can only change fronts or rears, or both together of course. You do not have to refuel, but it will be quite interesting. Standing start, another advantage for the Porsches. But yeah, 45 minutes, quite a long race distance, and it could be on the edge where you decide, instead of changing 4 tires, I will only change the fronts, or an Audi, maybe even the rears. Trying to show both the manufacturers and the flags now, but I think when I do this, only shows the flags. We will see. Either way, last minute in the qualifying session, I see cars. When the cars disappear, most of the time they just go back into the pits. You do not have to drive back into the pits. And Julian Kunze at a purple middle sector, so let's see what he can do. Crosses the line, stays in P4, but you can see times are extremely tight at the front. Risto Caput, he's using the BMW. He's actually using it because he wants to gain some information on the balance of performance here. Not a lot of drivers chose the BMW in the last season, except on the Nordschleife races, and he also escapes back to pits. If someone is still on a lap, that's Alessandro Vanozzi from Italy, also driving for Absolute Motorsport, P27. 32 car strong field. Pretty nice for just a test race. Cross the line up to P25. Bad performance. That means Andre Santos is going to start this race from pole position. We've got confirmation of the qualifying results just ahead of Moritz Löhner, Banki and Kunze on the second row. Then Suti and Eriksson, nice performance from these two. Ahead of Baldi and Weiss, Stoffmil and Vega rounding out the top 10. 3 different cars in the top 3. It's already looking like quite an exciting race. Track limits, of course, are in effect. The slowdown penalties, but the slowdown penalties, that's another thing that we're testing here. They're not quite as severe anymore as they used to be. And of course, drivers can have 2 wheels at the track and 2 wheels beyond, and curbs count as track. So sometimes it feels like they're going a bit too wide, but the game still says it's okay. Cars lining up on the grid now. Santos in the black Porsche. Then Moritz Löhner alongside him. Benz Banki there in the yellow car. We can see a little bit of flickering of the cars. That's also one of the things why we call it a test race here. 45 minutes on the clock. Lights are red. Engines should be rising now. Lights are out. Looks like a good start from Andre Santos there. But not a good start for Julian Kunze. Actually, Ben Spunky in the background in the yellow Mercedes goes around the outside of Moritz Lerner already. Doesn't quite manage to do so. One of the Corvettes wide there. That should be Baldi in the blue one. And a great start for Andre Santos. Ericsson in the background and Suti going side by side. Bunky as well going to the inside of Moritz Lerner. Hard braking. Lerner goes for a wide line. Bunky takes the position in the background. Suti around the outside of Kunze. Trying to take the position. Top speed duel now. We haven't seen the top speed yet. Let's check with Jesper Eriksson on board. Looks like a little bit better top speed for the Mercedes AMG. Oh, he gets hit from behind. That was a big hit for Eriksson there. Perhaps by Gagobaldi, who also goes wide. They're both being passed by Karel Vega, who's up to P6 now. Stoffmehl and Benedek involved in the battle as well. Then in the background, Gagobaldi down to P12 now. And pressure by Nicolas Hillebrand and Philipp Matzig, the two T3 drivers. Overall, relatively clean start. With damage here for Fabrizio Pileri at the front. But all cars still running. All 32 cars. Andre Santos is our leader after the first lap as he runs very wide there in the penultimate corner. The server's not counting for the ranking. Oh, and we can see in the background Vega under pressure by Johannes Weiss. Weiss in the Corvette goes up the inside. Oh, and Vega gets a little tap there by Ericsson. Santos already with the 2-second lead. So what a start from Andre Santos. And now Vega defending. Ericsson in the background. Behind him it's Balint Benedek. Oh, aggressive stuff there. Stoffmehl on the outside. Ericsson on the inside. They will make it through. Ericsson takes the position actually. And I think Olaf Hülse has been in trouble here. Dropped back a few positions in the old Porsche there with the yellow headlights. Battle still throughout the field. Position change here. Hillebrand and Baldi side by side. A bit further back. Also Krocke and Hülse side by side. Krocke in the BMW. Has the outside for the next corner. But the BMW very strong in these types of corners. Tries to go for the switchback even, and there's been a car off the road, and that's Sascha Gemeinhardt. Dropping all the way to the tail of the field. Battle still strong in the midfield. Nichols, driver from Australia, in the Audi here. Getting under pressure by Fabio Gallet. Italian goes through. Davada in the background in the little Z4. To capitalize as well, but not quite. And Andre Santos has lost quite a bit of his lead. Maybe slowdown penalty for him. You see also Suti. That's actually a bit too wide, the line that Suti went, so he might be getting a slowdown penalty there. Just to the outside, Kunze on the inside. Maybe that is even the slowdown in effect. Let's see if we can get the slowdown alerts turned on. As well as Vega and Benedek are going side by side. Benedek on the inside. Late braking. Nice move. Bit of contact, but Vega didn't leave him a lot of room. Actually goes for the switchback. Oh, and there's one of the Audis around. That's Philipp Matzig. Covers quickly, and Olaf Hülse is around as well. Don't reverse into the cars. Olaf Hülse dropping all the way back to last position, and the battles continue. Hillebrand now fighting with Benedek and Vega. And there's Gagobaldi on his recovery ride. Keeping an eye on the leaders here. Not sure how accurate the timing is. It seems like the timing is a little bit off. Always showing very big gaps appearing. That's Benedek off the circuit in the second corner. We got a little tap. Can happen easily. These cars now have to be driven with traction control, and the traction control doesn't exactly help you so much in these critical situations. Get a little tap at the rear and then it's very difficult to save the car. Here we can see definitely the timing on the tower not 100% accurate at this stage. Santos ahead of Löhner, but that gap is not changing so much. Aldi versus Hillebrand on the other hand, that's pretty close side by side. On the outside, that could work in the Audi, but Baldi actually takes a much better line here, takes a position up into the top 10. Jesper Eriksson. It's called Johannes Weiss, who's going for a dive here on Sultan Suti. Doesn't pay off and maybe puts him into a vulnerable position compared to Eriksson. Baldi and then Hillebrand are still going side by side. Hillebrand now off the circuit. Joining in P14. Lopez actually might pass him as well. Got a little leading trio here. Santos, Löhner and Banki. Because they're battling quite aggressively behind. Jesper Eriksson once again going for an aggressive move. This time trying to overtake Johannes Weiss. This Porsche is looking strong. Weiss actually better on the brakes. That was a good braking point there from Johannes Weiss. Did not expect him to keep this position. Stoffmehl waiting behind in the next Corvette. Von Vega and Baldi. Closest battles in the midfield, Vigneron in the old Porsche, the Wochenspiegel car, against Stefan Müller, one of the debutants here. Behind Lopez. Will be hard to race against Lopez with the high ping. They're still doing a good job, and then Philip Matzik, who's also recovering after a spin. Currently sitting in P18. Inside line for Müller. Vigneron is going a bit wide. Müller not too aggressive here. Just stays behind him. They have to watch out for Matzik, who's looking quite a bit faster at the moment. Out-qualified both of them. Matzik might have the inside already. But in the Audi now you don't have so much corner speed actually anymore. Often see the Audis braking quite early, quite hard. Matzik running a bit too wide over the curb there. That's a nice run. Could go for a move into turn 1. By doing so, and that puts Gianclaudio Crocker back into the fight. Italian BMW behind him. A little BMW battle just ahead of this group. Thorsten Ulrich driving for Virtual Drivers by TX3 ahead of Risto Caput. Something must have happened to De Veda as well. On to P29. Benedek, Galle and Gemeinhardt already out of the race. Julian Kunze, not trust the gap, it's not such a big gap. But it's still quite a significant gap already, as we see Ericsson on the inside of Johannes Weiss, penultimate corner. Goes for the move, goes up to P6, gets a little tap in the rear. The German still keeps his Porsche on the road. They can stay with Kunze pretty easily here. Suti now also even looking for an opportunity. You could just see Bunky going through, so the gap, I would say it's about 5 seconds maybe. Not quite as big as it seems to be, but still Julian Kunze a bit under pressure here. Maybe not quite accustomed yet to the new physics. Johannes Weiss once again late on the brakes. Hard move against Ericsson, who loses another possession against Stoffmehl. Side by side. Actually, Vega and Baldi are also side by side. Let's go corner by corner. Oh, Weiss goes wide! And that was the dive from Ericsson there. Certainly, because he passed both cars at the same time. Is on the inside, makes contact again with Stoffmehl. Someone's gone off. I think Attila Dina in the background has been off. Yes, he's just recovering. Let's watch here from Johannes Weiss's point of view, as this battle is heating up between Stoffmehl, Ericsson and Weiss himself. Oh, and that's Johannes Weiss already going for the pits. You can see that these little dots there have appeared. Little black dots, so the pit window has opened. They should turn green when drivers do a valid pit stop, so that means they change at least 2 tires. Johannes Weiss the first one coming into the pits, and also the line, of course, from the pit lane not in effect here. This line was okay from Johannes Weiss on the entrance. Vigneron also in the pits. Well, will be just a question, do they change 2 tires or do they change even 4 tires? See that over time. Weiss already back out again, so very likely that he changes only 2. It's Pileri on the outside. It's a Nissan of Benny Payne. So not a clean track for Johannes Weiss at the moment. The front of the field. Andre Santos still leading. Gap got a little bit bigger compared to Moritz Löhner. And Spunky following in the 3rd position. You can see the little bit bigger gap there to Julian Kunze. That's the car of Lachlan Nichols, just in between, racing from Australia. And Julian Kunze. Oh, and we can see Suti coming into the pits. The next driver will be interesting to see where he comes out in relation to Johannes Weiss. Dina's been in the pits, Matzik, Vigneron and Nichols as well. Stoffmehl also in the pits. That should be Garibaldi and maybe Olli Bernd, who's using the same livery, but I think it's Baldi, because Thorsten Ulrich is following. They're sitting in the pit lane now. Let's take a look at Johannes Weiss. See where they are coming out. Weiss following Cockrum. Pretty sure that was 2 tire change for Johannes Weiss. Suti's already going again, so Stoffmehl. I think that's the car of Stoffmehl there in the pit lane. No, it's the car of Suti, and Johannes Weiss has gained a lot of time with his early pit stop here. Stoffmehl coming out right behind, so they're all in the same strategy. Weiss might even take the position. We have seen how good the Corvette is under braking. Johannes Weiss takes a position from Sultan Suti up to P15 now, but fastest of the cars that have already been in the pits. Weiss now going for the move against Heath Cockrum. Ooh! Pileri spun in the background there, and Cockrum also came a little bit across Sultan Suti. No blue flags, of course. They're racing for position. This is costing Suti a lot of time. Just goes around the outside now. Should have the position. Yeah, was not fighting it too hard. We can see Thorsten Ulrich again, and I think Thorsten Ulrich might have been on a 4-tire change strategy. It's hard to tell the gaps at the moment. The timing bug here on the standings tower. But he's behind Szyborski, behind Payne, behind Pileri. He's not quite as close. We were maybe expecting him to be, as Julian Kunze is the next driver in the pit lane. And Kunze is staying for a long time. Weiss is already passed. So that's a 4-tire change. Interesting strategy. Yeah, actually Ulrich also on a 2-tire change because he has just passed Kunze. We can see the different strategy here in action from Julian Kunze. Conservative strategy. Just comes out ahead of Olaf Hilse and Alessandro Vanozzi. So all the other cars on a 2-tire change. Kunze the first one from the leaders to go for a 4-tire change. Thorsten Ulrich just takes the position against Szyborski, against the only 4 GT on the field. We have seen both strategies work in the past. At the GT Masters shootout last year, 40-minute races, so even shorter than this one. We had the Red Bull Ring, the 2-tire strategy worked out for Florian Hasse, but at Oschersleben it was actually the 4-tire strategy for Moritz Löhner which worked out, and Ben Spunky is the next one in the pits, and he already told me he is going to go for a 2-tire change. Already moving again. Lebrant in the pits now, Johannes Weiss coming down the straights, but I think Bunky should be able to get out of the pits ahead of him. Yes, he's already out of the pits. Not too far behind Luca Gray and Gianclaudio Croce. Risto Capet is slowly catching Karel Vega, who is having a fantastic race here. Karel Vega, the Frenchman, driving for GT3 Racing. He said this update, it's been like it's made for him. Completely suits his driving style, and you can see very strong performance here, struggling a little bit now into the stint. Still doing a fantastic job in 3rd position. And Julian Kunze trying to catch up as much as he can, going on the outside of Nicolas Hillebrand. He's fighting him a little bit, but of course he knows as well, Kunze has 4 fresh tires. Kunze should have the fastest car on the road at the moment. I think Vega has been into the pit lane as well. Yes, indeed. He's pitting now, and we just had the some rumors in the chat about custom liveries. Well, for the drivers who participate in the next GT Masters Esports Championship, and that we mean the people who participate in the LAN events, they will get a team livery in the game. It's not quite like custom skins yet. I think a lot of us, both from the RaceRoom team and from the community, are dreaming about this feature for a long time. So never say never. At the moment, it's not quite the time yet. But at least the drivers who participate in the Esports Championship, in the GT Masters Esports Championship, will have their own car, so you can finally tell them apart, because it was a bit difficult sometimes. Like when you look at this car, is it Johannes Weiss? Is it Attila Dina? You just don't know until this bar comes in. And Spunky, he's going past Luca Gray. Bit of contact actually as well. Currently the fastest cars of those who have pitted. Let's see where Karel Vega came out. And he lost a bit of time, but he's still ahead of Ulrich, still ahead of Kunze. Not in a bad position. Stefan Müller also on the 4-tire strategy. And Moritz Löhner now, 2nd place in the race, goes for his pit stop. It's Capet in 2nd place, Ericsson in 3rd place. Something must have happened to Ericsson, by the way, off the camera, because he was not behind Capet earlier on in the race. So Löhner, I think, and there's Bunky. I think that might have been 4 tire change as well. It's hard to call, but it definitely should be. Otherwise, he lost a lot of time at the end of the stint. So I'm making a call. Lerner also on a 4 tires change here, because he dropped down all the way to P10 behind Stoffmehl, behind Iago Baldi as well. Ericsson goes once again for a dive. Porsche very good under braking here. For a dive against Risto Capet, but Capet is coming back at him. Side by side now. Let's see if the BMW can hold it around the outside with the extra downforce, and it's looking good for Capet. Stays in P2 at the moment. So Lerner now, probably with the fastest car on the road, but these two drivers ahead of him, swapping positions, Baldi and Stoffmehl. Won't be easy to get past for him. And Santos now the leader into the pits. Let's watch it from the perspective of Ben Spunky. Capet takes provisional lead ahead of Ericsson. And Santos is still stationary. That's also 4 tires changing for Andre Santos. Quite a surprising move for the leader of the race. So we've got a battle now for the lead of the race between Capet and Ericsson. It's checking back once at Santos. Where does he come out of the pits? That's a strong position. That's ahead of the Corvette battle. Very nice for Andre Santos. It certainly helps him a bit. See Capet versus Ericsson. Sam Ericsson has the outside line. Can he cross over? Looks like it. Jesper Ericsson, provisional leader of the race. Runs a bit wide, and now they've got the Nissan of Benny Payne sitting right in front of them. Not from Benny Payne. Maybe we shouldn't do that, because he's got an Australian ping. He will, of course, get the blue flags when he runs wide. Lets them through as Capet comes into the pit lane. Anyway, De Werder also in the pits. So almost all of the cars now in the pits. Lopez still going and Ericsson still going. And then it's Ben Spunky, virtual leader of the race, ahead of Johannes Weiss, ahead of Sultan Suti. So let's see how big the gap is between Weiss and Suti. Can't really rely on the timing at the moment. Well, it's gotten a bit bigger. So Weiss actually faster on the 2-tire strategy, but you can already see Andre Santos in the background. And Andre Santos, for him, the strategy of changing all 4 tires certainly paying off at the moment. But he's still got quite a significant gap to close against Ben Spunky, who's the virtual leader of the race. And Moritz Lerner, he had a success with the 4-tire change strategy. Now has to get past the Corvettes, and with good top speed and good brakes, that's no easy feat. Turn 2 goes for a dive. Stoffmehl leaving the door open. Also just holding the outside line, but you can see just a bit more grip for Lerner there. Should be able to take the position. Goes ahead of the Dutchman. Bending the inside now, Stoffmehl. Let's see how late he can brake with that car. But Lerner just has a little bit of a better run out of the corners. Up into P8 now. Let's check Chiborski here. He's not been in the pit lane yet, and he has to hurry up, because the pit lane window is from 25 to 75% of the race distance. So, yeah, Chiborski still has to pit. Ericsson's pitting now. Emmanuel Lopez takes the lead of the race. Oh, and there's a slowdown penalty for Sultan Suti, so they do exist. Just gets it in the wrong moment. Andre Santos Going past him on the outside, takes a position, no real resistance, but with the slowness penalty. That's hard, of course, and Stoffmehl is still putting the pressure on Moritz Lerner. So Lerner can't get away from him, despite having much better tires here. It would be very interesting to see if Santos can even close the gap against Benz Bunky here. In the remaining 20 minutes of this race, Stoffmehl actually goes for a move on Lerner. Oh, and Lerner is struggling. Sure, if we can see a bit of damage there at the front of Moritz Lerner's car. That R8 logo looks a bit strange. It's a little bit deformed, so maybe a bit of suspension damage for Moritz Lerner. Taking a closer look here, but it actually looks kind of normal. That was a hard hit over the curbs. Lopez now on the pits. Bunky now leading the race, so we've got the corrected timing here. Bunky leading ahead of Weiss and Andre Santos. And that is the car of Lachlan Nichols, the Audi there, who's been lapped. Kunze, also on 4 fresh tires. Just gone past Karel Vega, who's still sitting in the top 10 though. And not sure what happened to Emmanuel Lopez here. I think he's just been in the pits, but he's not changed enough tires. Because his symbol is still showing black. So Lopez actually in a good position on track now, but that strategy actually not valid. Well, Andre Santos has gone past Johannes Weiss, and that pretty much looked like Weiss has let Santos through. Santos now up to second position. Yep, not quite 33 seconds. Let's see where Benz Bunky is. He's at the end of the straight. So I would say it's a realistic chance for Andre Santos that he can close this gap. Battles behind. Position change between the two Mira Esports teammates. Baldi in the Corvette goes past Suti in the Mercedes, who's struggling a little bit. Still fighting with Stoffmehl on the outside. With this Audi, it's so difficult when you're off the line. The smallest slide can cost you a lot of time. The car doesn't have a lot of downforce actually. Still a good pass here in the corners. Lots of room given by Stoffmehl. Lerner now up again, up to P6. Still has a lot of work to do to get back into the region where Santos and Bunky are driving. You just see how much time he lost compared to Andre Santos, and they were almost battling. They were 1 and 2 before the pit stops. Andre Santos already on the start finish straight. Refueling actually is possible in the pit stops, but with this race distance, there's almost no point in trying that. So most drivers will actually go for a strategy where they start with a relatively full tank, enough to carry them home for the race distance, and then change either 2 or 4 tires. Santos here on the 4-tire strategy, Bunky on the 2-tire strategy. Stoffmehl and Lerner on different strategies as well. And Lerner, despite having the faster car at the moment, not really able at the moment to pull away from Mike Stoffmehl, as Julian Kunze is going on the outside against Manuel Lopez and is finally taking the position here. Ulrich and Dina fighting pretty hard. On Risto Capet down to P14 after the pit stop. Cost him a lot of time. Now Vega is also trying against Lopez, but Lopez is giving it his best. Probably not quite aware that his strategy won't carry him till the end of the race. He will face a penalty for not changing any tires. Dina goes past him, and Ulrich and Dina still side by side, but it looks like Ulrich is able to keep the position. Filzer has been off the circuit there. Small old Porsche was pretty strong in the first GT Master season. It was pretty strong on the public service as well. Now it can't quite keep up anymore with the newer version, with the 2019 model. But it's still a decent car. So if you have it, give it a spin on one of the servers. You can't buy it anymore, so it's kind of rare now. Geelong Vigneron driving in the second of the old Porsches. Löhner and Stoffmehl have changed positions again because Löhner has been off. Going from bad to worse for Moritz Löhner in the Audi. Looking quite fast in the beginning. Now dropping back, and P7 seems to be like the best he can achieve now, especially with Kunze with 4 fresh tires. Especially no overheating tires coming up behind him. Let's see who we haven't had on the cameras yet. I think Oliver Berndt, P20, solid performance, quite a bit of esports experience by now. Cupra Championship, driving a lot in Server 2 and Server 3. Also, with a good performance here in the Corvette. Luca Gray, the Englishman, just goes off the circuit as we jump to him. That's a shame. Still ahead of Pilleri. We can see the position changes. Ooh, there's Pilleri coming up, and there's Heath Cockram as well in the black Porsche. Some changes once again between Ulrich and Dina. BMW versus Corvette. Ulrich goes for the draft here. Has to outbrake the Corvette. That's not gonna happen. Actually, it was a really good attempt. Carried a lot of speed out of the corner. That's the area where the Mercedes, where the BMW loses out a little bit. It's acceleration phase. Oh yes, the outside. Maybe he can go for the undercut here. Certainly trying to do so. Gets the line, and you can even hold on around the outside, at least against an Audi. Against the Corvette it should be a bit harder. But he's trying nonetheless. Thorsten Ulrich using the downforce of the BMW. Another corner in favor of Dina coming up. He's got the inside line, and he's not quite able to take the position. But pretty nice fight here for P11. As we have seen Emmanuel Lopez now do another pit stop. Moving down to P19. Yeah, talking about the Audi, it really is a challenge indeed. We've seen, I think all of the Audi drivers have at least one spin already in this race, and Thorsten Ulrich, he's not giving up. Outside line again against Dina. Capet now has closed up in the second BMW. Board with Capet. Dina defense, Capet on the outside. 3 wide. Ooh, it's close here. Nice braking point from Capet. Takes at least Thorsten Ulrich, who now has the slipstream of Dina. I wanted to say Capet already too far ahead. pressure for Attila Dina, and Philipp Matzik is closing in as well in the Audi. Matzik had a good qualifying, then has been off the circuit early on in the race. Speaking of people who've lost out a bit, Jesper Eriksson is down in P17. That was a 4-tire change strategy, but still it doesn't seem to have worked out at all for the Swedish driver. It's surprising to see him that far down the order. Dina still holding on. Corvette probably one of the harder cars to overtake. And the inside once again. Capet goes for the cutback. Oh, that could work. It's this crucial area where the BMW is lacking the power and he has to slot in behind Attila Dina. He gets the outside line, Dina knows how to defend. Late on the brakes, oh, a bit too late here. Good run for Risto Capet, but not quite good enough. Capet has the inside now. Still plenty of room given by Dina, just enough for Capet. Capet can't quite make the move stick. That brings Thorsten Ulrich back into the battle. Goes to the inside. Capet now goes to the inside as well. See, the BMW can just enter these types of corners in the tighter line, still carry the same speed, and it's losing all of the times on the corner exit again. Oh, and Kunze and Löhner are changing positions because Löhner has been off the circuit. Once again, Löhner in trouble, and that's the car of Lachlan Nichols, who's maybe been involved in the incident here. Either way, Löhner now behind Karel Vega. Oh, a big hit into the wall there for Lachlan Nichols. Spinning around, big damage on the Audi. Oh, I think now it would be the smartest for him to... Oh, Capet coming through there just about. Nichols actually waits for a good moment, but that car won't go very far. As he has to let lots of drivers go through. And Löhner now behind Vega, behind Kunze, just ahead of Hillebrand. George de Veda has been in a bit of trouble as well. A small BMW platform. Let's check with the leaders, because you can see Ben Spunky, and you can also see in the same shot André Santos in the Porsche. So perhaps the strategy from Santos is actually going to work out here. Slovakian still in the lead, but the Euronics gaming driver from Germany catching up lap after lap. 28.8 in the race for André Santos. So that's an impressive lap time. That would have been, I think, in the top 4 in qualifying. But also, when we take a look at the clock, 6 minutes 27 only left on the clock, so not a lot of time. Hannes Weiss in a strong third position. Jago Baldi in fourth in another Corvette, and then Sultan Suti in the Mercedes. Stoffmehl, Kunze, Vega, Löhner and Hillebrand run out the top 10, and then it's the hard battle with Attila Dina and the two BMWs of Capet and Ulrich. Oh, he has to defend almost every corner there. Olli Berndt moving past Emmanuel Lopez as Gergo Baldi has picked up a slowdown penalty. That could influence the battle for the remaining podium position, but it seems like Johannes Weiss is a little bit quicker at the moment anyway. He's holding a nice pace in the Corvette. Was not a smooth exit of the corner for Baldi at all. sooner or later. We have to focus on the leaders here. Ben Spunky is trying his hardest. Andre Santos actually closing in. Lap after lap. Santos the fastest car on the circuit at the moment. Oh, and there's been a change of position. That's Risto Kappe dropping back. He's been off the road there. Actually, Matzik and Ulrich have gone through. Let's see now if Matzik can go for a move on the BMW of Thorsten Ulrich. Completely different strength on the BMW compared to the Audi. Probably the cars that are the furthest away from each other, from the GT Masters cars at least. Too much forest here on the camera. Let's take a look out of the final corner. Attila Dina hasn't really gained a lot of free space after Kappe's mistake. Now he just has to defend against Thorsten Ulrich instead. And Matzik on his recovery drive with a good performance. Löhner against Vega. Way through yet for Moritz Löhner. During practice, we've seen Löhner mostly actually in the Audi. Maybe he will reconsider it after this race. Just jumping to Vigneron and Stefan Müller for a short moment. Vigneron going for a pass on the inside. Stefan Müller, the strongest debutant here in the race. What was the position though? Ulrich and Matzik, that's also pretty close. But it is actually Thorsten Ulrich slots back in front. So let's stay with the leaders here. Well, it looks like it's the car of Lachlan Nichols. Looks like it is repaired, but picked up damage again. That's through Ben Spunky. Andre Santos not quite close enough. Looks like the strategy from Bunky was a little bit faster here. Probably 2 laps to go after this one. For Kappet. Doesn't help his chances against Matzik. Vega and Löhner trading positions as well, but we have to stay with the leaders now. I don't think Nichols is helping Santos here at all at the moment. Oh, was that a slowdown for Andre Santos as well? He was definitely slowing down there, not accelerating fully out of the corner. Loses the car there. The corner gets held up a little bit by Nichols. Of course, after this race, we've got the WTCR race at Ningbo coming up as well. So, if you want, you can stick around. Watch another race, a shorter one though. Moritz Löhner now on the final lap of the race, going for the move against Kirill Vega on the inside. That looks like a clean pass. Bunky's still leading, and Santos lost so much time there behind Nichols, even though it looked like maybe it has been a slowdown for him as well. Either way, Ben Spunky in the Mercedes. About to take the first victory here on the new GT3 physics. On a live stream, the race. Well, it's not an official race, so it doesn't quite count, but Ben Spunky, strong performance, good strategy especially. And it's about to take the win. Battle's still hard here. We will jump back to the battle after Bunky has crossed the line. But credit where credit's due, the Slovakian driver, SDL Esports by Logitech G, Ben Spunky, in the Mercedes, in this yellow Mercedes that we've seen so often at the front of the leaderboards and the fields, winning again here at the Red Bull Ring. Congratulations, Ben Spunky, winner of the Esports test race, GT3. Andre Santos right behind him in second place, as Johannes Weiss is just taking third place ahead of Baldi, Suti, Stoffmehl, Kunze, Löhner, Vega and Hillebrand. But we have to watch this battle here because there's been a change. Ulrich now has gone past Attila Dina. Dina now has to defend against Matzik as well. Looks like it's just going to be enough. Löhner and Vega, that was close as well because Löhner has caught Benny Payne there in the Nissan, but Löhner keeps his 8th position. See here, Attila Dina stays in P12, stays ahead of Matzik. Capet right in behind. Well, there's actually Dorveda in between. This is just the AI taking over. One of the cars decided to do a very heartbreaking move there. Stefan Müller behind Vigneron. Oh, is he gonna stay ahead of Ericsson? Photo finish there. I think Vigneron had to slow down. Maybe he cut the circuit a little bit. Either way, Müller ahead of Vigneron, ahead of Ericsson over the line. Ollie Bernd the next one to cross the line. And then Michael Lopez. The grey. In the Mercedes, we've got Olaf Hülse, Heath Cochran, Fabrizio Pileri, Chibowski in the Ford, Benny Payne, Dorveda, and Lachlan Nichols. But at the front of the field, it was Ben Spunky, followed by Andre Santos, followed by Johannes Weiss. As Gergo Baldi has already left the server there, but he's still showing up in the results, of course, in P4, ahead of his teammate Sultan Chuti. So nice job here. Different strategies could be seen. A couple of bugs also have been found. And as we said before, we've got another race coming up. We've got a WTCR race coming up at Ningbo at the new circuit. So won't be long until we go into that race. Full confirmation of the results. Fastest lap goes to Andre Santos, of course, in the Porsche. That wasn't quite enough in the end. So just stay with me here if you like for the WTCR race. We will be right back in about 3 minutes, just switching to the server, and then we are back at Ningbo. So we are back here, now at China, now at Ningbo. Already found the first bug. Country flag is missing at the top display where it shows the session time left. That will be fixed in time, of course, for the Esports WTCR season, which will hopefully, very likely return in 2020. Of course, this Cupra, we've seen it in its own championship, the Cupra Sim Racing Series. Fingers crossed that that will happen once again as well. Cupra bringing actually a new model to the WTCR. We are here now at Ningbo. One of the new circuits in the game, has been on the calendar for quite some time. In the real FIA WTCR. It's one of the tracks that Lynk & Co is using for their testing. And it's quite an interesting layout. See if we can get the track map up. No, the track map not quite ready for us yet. So best thing we can do is probably go on board with one of the drivers. Let's hope that it's one of the drivers who's already driven around the track and knows where the corners are. Mark Balashin, he was not in a GT3 race. That's why he is leading the practice session here. He could practice a bit while the others were already driving in the GT3 cars. Expecting a bit of a smaller field here, but still lots of competitive drivers racing. Of course, Balashin, regular driver in Server 1 of Esports WTCR. Let's go on board now. Alessandro Vanozzi. Can't see much from this camera, so let's choose this one instead. First corner, absolutely flat out, but then you have to brake while you're still turning a bit. It's not using all of the tracks. You can go a bit wider to the right side, over the curb here. Brutal for the suspension. This corner is flat out. Now we've got one of the first quite hard braking zones on the track. This massive curb on the inside. And here you want to go on the throttle, but you just can't. The car won't allow you. The TCR car is now a little bit more understeery even after the update. And we're not truly struggling here to get the power down. Bit of a timing problem once again. Just remove it for the moment, as we're still in the practice session. Hard braking here and hard acceleration. As we come into a very similar left-hander corner. And very similar because this track, when you look at it from a top-down view, it's like all the straights are very close to each other. There's not a lot of room in between. Oh, and that's a big mistake there from Vanozzi over the curb, and that's the suspension broken, and that's a love tap on the rear of his Cupra as well by the Volkswagen here from Christopher Strapen. Just continue with him. Very tight hairpin. Don't really know where the apex is, and now the strangest chicane on the whole circuit, where you drop down, you have the curb on the inside, and you have a double right-hander here. It just takes forever until you find the right line. Oof, Verstappen not quite familiar with the layout of the track yet. Goes off the circuit, so let's see if he can get someone. It's actually driven around the track yet. Doesn't look like Carol Vega has, because that's not quite the circuit. Ansuti. All the cars will be running on a fixed setup in this race. Should be interesting to see how they perform. It was actually the same in the GT3 race. All the cars on fixed setup. We're just testing that as well. Testing if people like it or people prefer to change their setup. And should have all the different manufacturers on the grid here for the WTCR race as well. Suti goes hard over the rumble strips. But yeah, that's more or less the ideal line that he's taking. But early apex here. Now the final corner complex. Reminiscent of corners like on tracks like Singapore, so typical Tilke track corners. That circuit here though, not from Hermann Tilke. Certainly one of the more unique layouts. I mean, you can definitely see some of the modern circuits here with the tarmac runoffs. That's an invalid lap for sure for Suti. But it's got its own little flair, this Chinese circuit, and the lap times are pretty long. 1 minute 50.579. Currently the fastest time on the server, driven by Mark Balashin. Mark Balashin. That is the Honda. Honda had to wait a very long time to get the first Esports WTCR victory. And of course, Maulana won a few races on the Asian qualifier. But in the international one, Emre was cruelly denied at the Slovakia ring when he was leading until the final lap. And it was actually Maulana again who won in the final. Bunky couldn't take a victory in the whole season. And also, no victory for Jack Keithley, who raced this car in the Esports WTCR final. Instead, it was Andy Karama Maulana in this car here that Ben's Bunky is driving now at the moment. Yes, Ningbo actually has been released in the winter patch as well, and I don't think a lot of people have noticed that this track is part of RaceRoom now, because there's been all these physics changes. There's been all these updates to the damage model. There's been a new Porsche. There's been 2 new GT4 cars as well. So yeah, got a little bit overshadowed, but you can be sure we will use it in Esports WTCR if it comes back. We'll probably do a couple of competitions on the tracks as well. And yeah, of course, in the stage of testing it out, if it's ready, that's some reports of people having high FPS on the circuit, but it's all in time to sort it out. That's why we call it the Esports Test Race. Practice session over now. And off we go into qualifying. Only 12 cars on the grid, but we've got, I think, each of the manufacturers represented here. So it should be a close and exciting race. 13th car just has joined, Luca Gray, and here we see Elmar Kormanov, of course, in the Alfa Romeo. WTCR physics itself were not changed in the update, but there's been a new, I'm not quite sure what it is. You will probably find it in the Sector 3 forums with a written explanation from Alex Hodgkinson, our physics developer, who can explain it better than I can. But yeah, the physics itself were not changed, but there's been a general physics change applied to all cars. I think with the way the drivetrain it's handled. Aggressive from Jesper Eriksson there. Start of the qualifying session. But yeah, these cars definitely feel a little bit different. You feel it in the force feedback, and also you got just a bit more understeer in the corners in general. Lap times, I would say, are about half a second to 1 second slower per track. Tire physics, of course, also have been adjusted. Of course, when we were in Malaysia for the Esports WTCR final, it was quite interesting to speak to the real WTCR drivers, especially to those who have tried the cars on RaceRoom. They did a little race as well at the simulators, which was won in a quite interesting fashion by Michele Ascona. Aurelian Pan is actually leading the race for most of the time. And had a chance to speak to Nestor Girolami. He said, it's really close. It's really close. The lap times are close. The way that, how they handle, it's all very similar. There's just a couple of things that need to be adjusted to make it even more realistic. Of course, they also get updates every year in the WTCR, so basically every year you need a little bit more new feedback. So, yeah, hopefully Girolami is one of the drivers who will provide this feedback get an even more realistic version, but we are certainly not far off with the cars that we have at the moment. And you could see Niels Langefeld last season, Esports WTCR, driving in Server 1, showing that you can use what he learned in the real car in the virtual version as well. And I mean, this works vice versa. We've seen Lai Sabino driving in Macau this year. We've seen Tim Heinemann, of course, in the ADAC, GT4 Germany, being very successful. Super racer driver Florian Bodin has taken a few class victories. Also Marcel Machewicz, who also came from the Super Racer. He's been winning races in the KTM, left, right, and center. So, yeah, always good to see these drivers taking the step to the real racing. Perhaps one of those who are racing here today will be the next one, Gergo Baldi. Probably the most likely one out of those who are on the grid, because he's got this connection to Mira, the team of Norbert Michelisz. With Jesper Eriksson, one of the new signings for virtual drivers by TX3, a team that has been massively expanding. Eriksson already knowing exactly how much curb he can take in the corners here. Eriksson, one of the new drivers, alongside Camille Correc, alongside also Thorsten Ulrich, of course, who was there last season. I think that's a cut. I don't think this lap time will count. Jesper Eriksson, let's see when he crosses the line. Oh, it does count, just about enough, but Elmar Kurbanov immediately jumps him in the Alfa Romeo. Manuel Lopez in second, and let's see what the favorites can do here. Verstappen actually up to second in the Golf. It's a nice performance, but Ben Spunky is purple, Balashin is purple, Suti is purple, Vega is purple. Baldi at the moment not showing as purple. Ben Spunky quite a bit purple actually. 1.3 seconds. There we can see it, 49.5. Ben Spunky, pole position, no surprise there. Slovakian just coming off his victory at the GT3 race on pole once again. Now no one's purple anymore because that lap time will be hard to beat. Karel Vega, decent lap in the Lynk, crossed the line, but only P7 at the moment, so there must have been a mistake at some point. Philip Matzek, the only Audi on the grid, stays in P8 with his first lap time. Let's see if Gergo Baldi can do anything about it. Anything against Ben Spunky. Gergo Baldi, who was in such a strong form in the online championship of the Esports WTCR, but then ran into a bit of technical issues at the final. You can see it. He was actually on pole at the Hungaroring and then dropped back a lot throughout the race. Now he's following Philip Matzek here. Benedek up to P5, Balashin in P6 now. Also, of course, a big thanks to everyone who's watching here at the moment for the test race. I mean, it's a race where essentially you can win nothing, but it's still some good fun. And if you have feedback concerning the stream quality or the streams itself, make sure to drop a comment in, either in the forum on Discord or in the YouTube chat. And we will make sure that we can take a look and improve it for the next streams. Of course, we will have 2 commentators once again. Once the season starts, of course, we will be back on the RaceRoom page and on Facebook and on Twitch. So, yeah, just trying to get a little bit back into the groove and find these small issues, like the flag missing at the top in the time. Gray running a bit wide in the hairpin. Very difficult to find a line here. Garibaldi maybe doing the same. He's still not on the timed lap. Qualifying session already halfway done, and we completely missed that Karel Vega jumped up to the 2nd position in the Lincoln Co. Vega not on the personal best at the moment. This man here, Elmar Kurbanov, he is. The first sector alone, 8/10 against Ben Spunky. Just shows the quality of Spunky. Maybe he's practiced a little bit on the circuit already. That's a crazy gap for WTCR standards here. Spunky completely in control at the moment, and we are waiting for the times of Baldi, for the times of Suti, to see if the Hungarians can do anything about it. Iago Baldi about to start a new lap, so let's go on board with him. Just read in the chat, 2 tire change OP. Well, that's exactly why we do the test, to determine what is the perfect race length. We have 2 viable strategies. Of course, it will depend a bit from track to track, but Buring probably one of the tracks that favors the 2 tire change. Gorbanov up to P2. Garibaldi coming up here in the first sector, hard over the curbs. Now this endless corner. Balashin now 2nd in the Honda. It's a Honda 1-2. I'm not sure why the manufacturers are not showing up. Garibaldi almost losing half a second in the first sector. Here you can just see the manufacturers, Honda, then Alpha and Lincoln Co. Currently 9 drivers who have set a lap time, with 13 drivers who are on the server. Of traffic here for Garibaldi. That's either Luca Gray or Christoph Verstappen. This is actually Luca Gray, because Verstappen is in the pits. Oh, and there's contact! Now they're blocking the road. Baldi escaping back to pits. It's one of the Cupras was coming up. I'm not sure if Baldi is gonna get a timed lap in here, because you know how it is on RaceRoom. When the timer hits 0, you can't set a lap time. So he basically only has 1 attempt now. Suti goes up to P2. Garibaldi's teammate. And Mark Balashin. Actually quite large gaps here in this race. Matzik about to cross the line. P10 at the moment. I could see him improve, but actually it's not quite the improvement here for Philip Matzik. Stays in P10. Now maybe Jesper Eriksson, next driver to cross the line, but he also stays in P9. Lopez on a personal best. Racing from Argentina, so you see the same phenomenon that you could see on the car of Lachlan Nichols in the GT3 race. It's just jumping around a little bit. Still on a personal best, and that could actually move him up quite far in this qualifying session. Nazi has set a lap time now, jumps Luca Gray in the standings. So only Baldi, the only driver who hasn't set a time yet. Lopez cutting the track a little bit. Has to watch out there that his lap stays legal. Comes across the line, the Argentinian. Up to P4 ahead of Balashin and Kurmanov. Nice time from Manuel Lopez. Let's see with Garibaldi. His flying lap now. He has to make it count. Of course, also for all the participants who just drove in the GT3 race, make sure to leave your comments on the suspension damage, on the slowdowns, on the race format as well, in the forums, on Discord, or here in the YouTube chat. It's probably better if you leave it on the forums or on Discord, because then we can see it afterwards as well. But we are very curious, of course, to see what the feedback is, and we are willing to change and improve things, of course, for the upcoming seasons, if we know the direction that we have to go from you, from the drivers. Garibaldi, decent lap. Faster in the second sector than Ben Spunky was. So, lost some time in the first sector, but everyone has. Actually, pretty decent sector. It could be P2. Baldi across the line, P2 indeed. So, Bunky and Baldi on the front row. No one at the moment. Able to challenge Bunky Hughes on an improvement once again. When he crosses the line, less than a tenth is the gap now to Garibaldi. Comes across the line, and now it's almost half a second. Vince Bunky, he's on form here at Ningbo. Luca Gray also on an improvement. Still quite a way down. Could he maybe challenge the time from Vanozzi? We'll see when he comes across the line. Ah, not quite. Less than a second is the gap to the Italian. Quite tricky on a difficult circuit here. The Matzik. I don't think he will be able to finish this lap time here. A lot of these corners are not very round on the circuit. Special style. Anyway, here's the full order of the qualifying. Ben Spunky on pole for the Honda from SCL Esports by Logitech G, ahead of Baldi, ahead of Suti, to Mira Esports, Hyundai's second and third, then Benedek, then Emmanuel Lopez rounding out the top 5, the Argentinian, in the Lincoln Co. 25-minute race coming up, just one race today, so you have to make it count here from the start. Let's see who's going to come out on top. Just waiting for the cars to appear on the start-finish straight. This is the car of Mark Balashin. Attila Tassi, Hell Racing Honda, and of course he's the one who's waiting the longest until he joins the grid. Oh, and there we go, and that's the funny part of the circuit. This starting order is very interesting, isn't it? Ben Spunky on pole, but you can actually see 4 cars almost in a row. Lights go green, and we're racing. Oh, and that's been a bad start by Bunky there. Baldi has completely jumped him. And a deck on the outside, Balashin on the inside. As they stream down the first corner, that's Suti going wide, who's lost a lot of time. Lopez also lost a lot of time, so maybe some issues there with the starting grid lining up. Maybe some drivers forgetting about the launch control. Hard braking here, Balashin. Behind him, Vega and Verstappen going side by side. Ooh, that was Balashin actually going to the side of Benedek. Oh, and there's in the background, that's Sultan Suti trying to regain the positions. Sneaks up the inside, and we've got a change for the lead. Almost there. Monkey going for it. Benedek definitely going for it. Against Balashin, but there's a cutback. Side by side, Balashin and Benedek. Let's get the standings back up. It's on around the outside. The Cupra driver, but now the inside once again for Balashin. Just about gets past him. Car went a little bit wide in the background there. Oh, and that's Verstappen all the way over the curbs. Suti has to wait. Benedek, VP Gaming driver, looking on the inside against Balashin, and Verstappen there in the background, losing the position to Karel Vega. Oh, Vega just about keeps it on the road there. Matzik sneaks through. Rovanov also has lost a lot of time at the start. Ericsson, aggressive as ever, fighting against the Russian. So that was quite a crazy start there. Quite an interesting starting grid. Oh, and that's Vega off the circuit. Karel Vega there spinning off as we complete the first lap, and Garibaldi still in the lead of the race, but under big pressure by Vance Bunky. And then a large gap. Of course, we can't rely on the timing still, but it's certainly a large gap to Balashin. Suti just goes past Benedek now. And I think it's Verstappen who's trying to come through as well. Oh, Verstappen going for a dive, almost 4 wide here. Oh, Suti! Just about keeps his car on 4 wheels there in the end. That one landed almost on the roof. Lopez with a slowdown. And Matzik now gaining positions, but Suti immediately on the attack again. Goes up the inside against Philip Matzik. And Matzik runs wide. No chance there to keep the position against the Hungarian. Back to the leaders. Bunky is trying everything against Garibaldi. Take the lead of the race. So we will certainly take a look at the replay afterwards, not on stream, but we'll certainly do, to see if this grid was really lined up properly in the qualifying order, because there's been some big changes after the start, and with the launch control, it was a bit unusual indeed. Either way, Baldi still holding the lead from Bunky and from Balashin, who's got a big group behind him. We've seen it so often. The Honda is pretty quick in the race, but it has a hard time overtaking other cars because it's lacking top speed. It's mostly gaining time in the corners. Now on the fixed setup, it's a bit of a reduced disadvantage, I would say. These cars pretty much exactly the same pace when they're on the same weight. Maybe even a small advantage for the Honda. But still, in a racing situation, the Hyundai just has a little bit of an advantage. He is trying, he's not finding the gap. And Notzi and Gray, meanwhile, in the background, are also fighting with each other. They're not getting gapped by the field at all. Oh, but that's a late breaking point there from Luca Gray. And it forces Vanozzi to take a very tight line in the hairpin. Karel Vega in the background, catching up again. And not a lot of drivers have managed to set a valid lap time yet. Fastest lap so far from Vance Bunky, but the second fastest from Karel Vega. Because it's quite easy to cut here with all the tarmac runoff areas. And Bunky just trying the same thing again. Trying on the outside, but on this hairpin the outside line is just too big of a disadvantage. trying everything there, going late under braking. No way through just yet. It's a bit of a mistake by Baldi though on the exit. And now that could be the inside line for Bunky, but he's not going for a dive. Meanwhile, position change further back. Ericsson has gone past Matzik. And Lopez and Kovanov are side by side. Suti now also has gone past Benedek. Oh, and Benedek is dropping back. That's for Strapen also coming through. Ray and Alessandro Vanozzi also haven't finished their battle yet. Just looks the same every lap. And Spunky not able to make a move against Garibaldi. Lopez and Kovanov side by side. And for the Alpha driver. Lopez can take a lot more speed through the corners here. But then, out of the corners, he can't quite get a run on Kovanov. Yeah, when it comes to driving against people like Baldi and Bunky, it can be frustrating because they're pretty damn quick. Ericsson, meanwhile, has passed for Straten. So, yeah, for me it's also not quite possible to match them. But there are some tricks that you can use to get closer to them. One of the tricks, of course, is on the leaderboards you can challenge their times. You can turn on the lines and the ghost. And on the racing line you can actually see where they brake and where they accelerate. Straten and Ericsson, nice side by side. Ericsson goes through. But that helps a little bit, especially if there's a fixed setup competition, because then even with the fixed setup, I would say the setup most of the time isn't even such a big factor of how to gain the time. It's just using the track, understanding where to go on the throttle and really understanding the corners, which makes the difference. And yeah, this feature of challenging their best lap times, challenging the goals, certainly helps. And of course, even in a fixed setup competition, a couple of things to know. You can still change the brake bias and the brake pressure, and still change the steering lock and the steering rotation. And you can still change the traction control as Bunky goes into the lead. Oh, we missed it now because the timing didn't quite show it that they were close. But Bunky now has gone past. Garibaldi takes the lead of this race. Let's see if Garibaldi has any answer to that. Lots of curb there. Yeah, one more thing you can also change in a fixed setup competition is the traction control. You cannot change between, you cannot really change the values that are set in the setup. So it's always like 100%, 80%, it stays the same. But what you can do is you can switch between these different values, the 6 presets, when you map a button. And we've got battles all over the track here. That's for Strapen and Ericsson, but in the foreground, there was also Suti and Balashin, who were going side by side. Strapen now losing out. Let's check with Suti. It's for the undercut against Balashin. Oh, that could work. Bit of contact here. Inside line for Suti. Takes the position. It's Matzik, Kovanov, and Lopez. That's a tough battle indeed. Bit of contact there. Kovanov was trying to slot back in, and I think now he's going to lose the position against Emmanuel Lopez. Russia and Argentina are not exactly next to each other. It's a pretty high ping for both of these drivers. Bit of contact. Lopez stays ahead. Good to see Kovanov back here on the server. Connection issues from Russia are finally fixed for these servers. This one is the final race of the evening, but make sure, if you can't get enough racing, make sure to join the ranked servers. Probably the best racing on RaceRoom at the moment there, if you're not part of a community. And if you are part of a community, of course, they are streaming a lot of races as well. I'm driving in virtual racing myself, but I know, for example, VGT is a big community, RFO in France. There are plenty of communities who are putting out these races, these series where you can join. And always worth to check YouTube and also Twitch. I think most of the racing is still on YouTube at the moment, or some RaceRoom streams. Of course, we are still planning to run multiple divisions in the next season in the RaceRoom Esports servers. Also some special events where there are no restrictions to joining. Of course, in these streamed races, there's a tendency that you see, you know, the fastest among the fast drivers, just because of the leaderboard qualifier. So it's always going to be people like Ben Spunky and Garibaldi on the server, but doesn't mean that all the racing on RaceRoom is only targeted for these drivers. You can find plenty of leagues who are more aimed for rookie drivers or gentleman drivers. And sometimes there are official RaceRoom events, like these special events, for example, that will return pretty soon, where yeah, you pretty much get your server with people with a similar pace. Monkey can't drop Baldi at the moment. Bit of a surprise. Suti should be a long way back, because he had to fight back through the whole field, keeping Balashin with him, and Benedek as well. Benedek did not race in the Esports WTCR Championship last season, but he did race in the Cupra series. Balashin drove in the WTCR with the Cupra, now switching to a Honda. Of course, this is always a good opportunity just to try a different car. Christoph Verstappen doing the same thing in the Golf. A car that hasn't seen much love in the Esports WTCR last year, but was actually on pole in the final in the hands of Ben Spunky. Left here on the first race at Ningbo, and Lopez has gone past Verstappen, who's been very wide here. Lopez putting the pressure on, Verstappen now losing also the place against Korbanov. We have to watch back from Philip Matzik, because Emmanuel Lopez is flying at the moment, the Argentine driver. As the inside line now, that could be yet another position. Pass, but cut back for Matzik. That's the inside line. Oh, that's tight. But with the better end for Emmanuel Lopez, up to P7. Ooh, Philip Matzik there, going for a cheeky line on the inside of the curb, but it's not paying off. In fact, he's now under pressure by Elmar Korbanov. And Benedek and Balashin at the front of the field have traded positions, but that's just Benedek going wide. Ooh, contact there! Matzik just stays ahead of Elmar Korbanov. Matzik, also one of the drivers who did not compete in Esports WTCR last season, but he's having a good time here, fighting with finalists like Lopez and someone like Kobanov, who's been in the first server plenty of times. He is starting to gap Garibaldi now. Meanwhile, this is the closest battle on track right now. Benedek trying to find his way past Mark Balashin. Benedek has been quite aggressive in this race. Oh, and that's Sultan Shuti way off the circuit there. Coming back into the battle. Maybe some suspension damage for Suti, because this car doesn't seem to be quite going straight. And pick it up here over the curbs. Got our first retirement. Alessandro Vanozzi out of the race. Zuka Gray now. No one left to fight with, because Carol Vega has gone past him, but I don't think Vega quite close enough to Verstraeten. Close the gap here. Verstraeten is still close to Kovanov and Matzik. But Lopez is driving away from them. But Jesper Eriksson in 6th position, actually still in reach of Lopez. Benedek in 5th. And Balashin, that's the closest battle. Sultan Shuti, probably no suspension damage, indeed. Still looking quite strong. Oh, there's been a change of position. Strapen has gone past Korbanov, struggling with FPS issues at the moment, Elmar Korbanov. Benedek trying to do the same thing against Balashin. Suti in 3rd place, then of course Garibaldi in P2, and Ben Spunky now with quite a significant lead in P1. Will be interesting to see which cars will feature in the next WTCR season. I have some doubts about the Mulsanne racing team, Romeo Ferraris, who entered this Alpha. Oh, that's a mistake from Verstappen, braked on the grass. Kurbanov goes through on the inside. Straighten down to P10. Slowdown penalty on top of that. Not sure how justified that slowdown was, because he certainly lost a lot of time there. Benedek all over the back of Balashin. So Cupra basically confirmed for next season with the new car as well. Just not possible to pass around the outside. Slow down for Verstappen. So yeah, Cupra confirmed. Honda, Hyundai and Lynk all very, very likely. And Audi and Volkswagen actually not. They're actually cutting down the factory support, which was quite funny. Because they mentioned before, the WTCR, it's a series only for privateers, and now it's a big announcement that they reduced the factory support. That was a bit strange. Either way, these cars will probably still be there on the grid, entered by privateers. Not so sure about Alfa Romeo. But there are a couple of other TCR projects as well around the world. Mazda has just started one, and that's a nice attempt from Balint Benedek. Around the outside against Balashin, not quite good enough though. So yeah, TCR remains an interesting class, and also an electric TCR class is coming up. First cars from Cupra have been built. I think Hyundai is involved with the project there as well. And Ferrari is actually switching their efforts to this electric series. To keep our eyes off this battle here between Balashin and Benedek. It seems like it's one of these circuits where it's kind of hard to overtake. Benedek certainly with a little bit of more pace now in his Cupra, and you can see Ericsson is catching up, Lopez is catching up, and Matzek as well. There's just no way through. Final lap has started now. Actually, Ben Spunky already quite far into his final lap around the circuit. We stay on the battle with Balashin. Defends pretty hard here. Outside line again for Benedek. Good attempt again. Oh, very good attempt this time. Balashin can just run wide here on the exit. Still keeps the position. Lopez in the background, side by side with Ericsson. Balashin defends super hard here. Oh, and he goes wide, he makes a mistake. And that's the position gained for Balint Benedek. Ericsson runs super wide in the background. Side by side again with Lopez. Brakes later. Both pretty late. Lopez goes a bit over the grass on the inside. Can Ericsson stay with him there? To see how much it's costing both of them. Bit of contact once again. Ericsson stays ahead. We have to go to Bunky because he is going to win the race. 2 out of 2 for Ben Spunky. Victorious here. Once again, ahead of Garibaldi. Sultan Chuti is going to take the 3rd position. Now it gets interesting. Benedek in 4th place. No answer for Balashin. Ericsson still in P6. And it seems like Lopez couldn't make it stick here. Benedek with a bit of a mistake here. Balashin actually gets a good run, but won't be able to go past him. Benedek in P4. Balashin in P5, followed by Ericsson, followed by Lopez. Something must have happened to Garibaldi here. He's dropping back to 9th place now in the standings. I'm not sure if the game counted him in the 2nd position or what exactly happened there to him. Seems like he maybe pressed escape before the line. That's very strange. Baldi and Suti both are dropping down the order. Nothing to investigate after this race. Either way, this is Luca Gray. Last car still going. Comes across the line now. And he gets counted ahead of Baldi and Suti as well. But here, on this finishing order, Baldi and Suti are back in P2 and P3. Everything fine. For them, fastest lap, Ben Spunky. Congratulations for him. And Baldi second. Suti, Benedek, and Balashin in quite large gaps here, because this is certainly one of the more difficult circuits on the WTCR calendar. And also one of the more difficult circuits on RaceRoom. Make sure you get it if you don't have it yet. I think we still got a little sale going on. So make sure to check that out. And with that, our little esports test ends here for today. We will be back with more esports actions probably in early February. The calendars are not all final yet. They have not all been announced yet. That's the plan for sure. GT Masters confirmed, as I mentioned before. Fingers crossed for WTCR and Cupra, it's looking good. And then of course some more things might happen, like Super Racer. Who knows what else is going to come on the RaceRoom esports side. And of course we've got the ranked service now as well, where you can get your daily racing action. So that's it for me. I would like to say thanks to everyone who watched, even just for a little bit here. Next time, of course, we will be back with 2 commentators, and until then, have a nice evening and goodbye from me.